No, sorry. I have to really find a way to sort of reconstitute that raw material within myself to come out with this product that's close to this person. So always remind yourself that, you know, and that helps in real life too. When you go out and you have to engage with people, it always helps me as a naturally shy person, despite what you may think being up here on stage. I am actually very, very shy and introverted and very awkward. But it helps to remind yourself, you know, somewhere inside of me is this person I'm about to try to talk to. We are, you know, we're made from the same stuff. We just have to find the different combinations and see how they dovetail or don't. And the thing is, as a writer though, you have this certain stance that you can take in public if you're shy. It helps to work through rejection by thinking, well, even if I'm rejected, there's a good story here. You know what I'm saying? It becomes sort of a thing like, ooh, however this turns out, I'll have something I can write about. So yes, write from life, write from life. Go and watch people, don't just watch them, engage them, talk to them, get to know them, so that you can find some common ground. And then you begin to have more people in your head, other than just yourself, that yourself as you know yourself. You'll have more people in your head that you can draw upon to write, and that'll help. So I hope that helps. Please don't go out in public and get beaten up because you're like, hey, Michael Tatum told me to watch you. Don't do that. Don't do that. And watch your language, especially when you're on the mic. I see a hand, random. You with the lovely plaid red and black coat. And the awesome scarf with the skull and crossbone buttons. Yes, I see you.
Let's talk more Shakespeare. Because I just recently watched Romeo x Juliet, and I absolutely loved it. So
thank you.
Yeah. So I guess I just kind of want to hear your process with that.
Thank you. How many people here are fans, first of all, of the original play, Romeo and Juliet? You're like, yeah, I kind of like it. That's usually the play they start you with in English in high school for some reason. You think, oh, it's about teenagers in love. You'll relate to this. And I mean, you do eventually. You're like, oh yeah, okay, I've totally been there. Yeah, my parents hate the people I date. And how many people, of those of you that just raised your hand, how many people have seen Romeo x Juliet, the anime that was based on? Okay, roughly the same number. Wonderful show. I love getting to work on that as an ADR director with our Bruce Elliott, the gentleman friend of mine who played Conrad. I also played William Shakespeare in that production, which is no pressure. Thank you. I did not cast myself in the role of William Shakespeare. I would never have done that. That was Bruce Elliott going, nope, you're playing Shakespeare. I am? Yes. Now it gets freaky. Oh, sorry. Time! One of my favorite stories to tell about Shakespeare. I was gonna get up.
Yeah, a little bit. I know where he. Worst prom ever.
This is my fault because mechanical and electronic equipment fails fantastically around me. It's a curse or a gift, depending on where you are. Romeo x Juliet, Shakespeare. Being an actor, and I grew up on stage. I mean, not literally, but I mean, I spent a lot of time on stage as a young man. And they found me in swaddling clothes in the back of, in a green room of some theater, and I was just raised by gypsies. No, I wish. But I did spend a lot of time on stage. And there we go. Yes, thank you. It was like, I'm catching every other word. Romeo x Juliet was, the adaptive scripts were written by Taliesin Jaffe and his team. Patrick Seitz was a member of that team. That's when I first encountered Patrick Seitz writing and fell in love with the man. I want to name my next child after him. Well, my next cat. But Bruce Elliott and I, as directors working on a team, we were in love with the material. Taliesin's scripts were amazing. To date, they are the single best example, I think, of an adaptive script in the booth. They were just flawless. And difficult, too, because Talison's idea was to use as much Shakespearean, actual Shakespearean, quotations, weave them as often as possible into the dialogue of the show, and he did. And I thought, I don't know if this is going to work. And I thought, I'm like, oh my God, this works gorgeously. And it was great because when we called people into audition, and we had a lot of people audition because it's a rather large cast, and everyone wanted in on this because it was Shakespeare. And actors are like, oh, Granddaddy Shakespeare, I've got to get in on this, because at some point, every actor, it's just in our blood. At some point, you want to go back to the source, and for most of us, that is Shakespeare. But Taliesin did such a wonderful job with the scripts that when we cherry-picked lines to put on what are called the audition sides, which are what we give the actors that come in and they read from them. And often they're given no context for these lines whatsoever. And they may know, in the case of this show, they may know this line because it's from a Shakespeare play, but they have no idea how, what the emotional subtext is in our version because of where it falls. They know, because I like, and Bruce likes to have an actor come in and cold read, which means you don't really give them any directions for their first time out. You just kind of want to see where their instincts as an actor takes them with that line, because they may suggest a read that completely surprises you. And you may be like, oh, I like that. That's not what I would have directed you to do, but that's amazing. We're going to go with that, and that's now going to be kind of the theme that we go with for this entire scene. That's, incidentally, as a director, that's one of my favorite things to do, is to underdirect so that the actor surprises you. And you allow yourself to, both of you, to be sort of directed by the process rather than by any one person going, no, it must be like this, and it can only be like this, or it's going to be crap. Which I find to be a very, very ineffective approach. Those scripts of Talison's and Patrick's and 3 or 4 other writers whose names escape me at the moment because it is noon on a Sunday, were so amazingly written that every actor that came in brought their A game. They just sunk their teeth into these beautiful, beautiful words. And I have never had a more difficult experience of having to choose who to cast than on that show, because of the several hundred people that came in over the course of 6 or 7 days. I mean, it goes quick. We had about 30 strong contenders for every single role. And we would go home that night, and he and I would look over their stuff, and we would talk with Chris Bevins, the producer, our boss, basically. And he'd be like, well, what do you think about this? And there was a lot of pacing. There was a lot of rock, paper, scissors. But I mean, we ended up with a wonderful cast. And those scripts are, in my mind, like a guiding principle. They're kind of my creative compass. When I write now, I always think back to what Taliesin and Patrick and the gang were able to do with that show. And I try to not emulate that, but to try to at least aspire to be as good. I don't know that I'll ever be as good a writer as the people that worked on that show, but that doesn't mean I can't try. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Like, I wish I could wake up every day for the rest of my life and be working on that show. That is how much fun we had working on that. But it has to end. We all know how it ends. Spoilers. Thank you.